Okay, so we probably all know at this point that Henry Kissinger has kicked the bucket, and we all should know at this point that he was an evil man. But if you don't know, this video is going to enlighten you. So in light of Henry Kissinger dying, here's a breakdown of his most damaging policies and their horrific impact on BIPOC people globally. He played a direct role in all of these conflicts that I'm about to list, and it's not even conflicts. He is responsible for the genocide of millions and millions of people. And it's so sad because I see actual accredited publications mourning the loss of Henry Kissinger. And you know what? It's not sad. It makes sense because these are the systems and the publications that have thrived and rose into power under an imperialist system. These are literally the publications that were born out of comfortability in an imperialist system. So it's not shocking, but we're still going to drag him and expose all of the millions of deaths that he is responsible for. So I'm just going to start this video. This isn't even half of it. This is going to be very long because he is responsible for so many atrocities and he is a war criminal. This is just probably going to have to be broken into parts, but let's get into it. We can start with the most obvious that he's known for, which is Vietnam. So the Vietnam War resulted in the deaths of over 3 million Vietnamese civilians and people. So as National Security Advisor and Secretary of State, Kissinger played a pivotal role in prolonging the US war in Southeast Asia, and it resulted in massive civilian casualties in Vietnam. Secondly, we have his Cambodian campaign, and this resulted in 2.5 million deaths of Cambodian people. So the secret bombing of Cambodia, which was authorized by Henry Kissinger, caused widespread devastation and civilian deaths and contributed to the rise of the Khmer Rouge. Next, we have the Laotian Civil War. He is just running amok in Southeast Asia, but this resulted in over 200,000 Laotian deaths. The US bombing campaign in Laos, part of Kissinger's Indochina policy, led to severe civilian casualties and displacement and really disrupted the region. Next, we're going to move on to the Bangladesh Liberation War, which resulted in 3 million plus Bangladeshi people being affected. So Kissinger's support for Pakistan's military regime during the war led to atrocities against the Bangladeshi population, and it included genocide and displacement amongst many other horrible atrocities. Next, we have the Indo-Pakistani War of 1971, which resulted in over 10,000 plus Indians and Pakistanis affected. Now, this conflict, exacerbated by US policies under Kissinger, resulted in thousands and thousands of deaths on both sides. Next, we have the Yom Kippur War, which resulted in over 15,000 Egyptian people dying and over 3,500 Syrian people dying. Kissinger is directly responsible for prolonging this war and thus leading to a high number of casualties. Next, we have the Cyprus crisis, and you can see he's making his way across the globe just on a killing spree. He is literally a mass genocidal, bloodthirsty monster. But I digress. So we have the Cyprus crisis, which resulted in over 6,500 plus Cypriots affected. And the US policy during Kissinger's tenure really influenced the Turkish invasion and ensuing the conflicts in Cyprus, and it led to civilian casualties and displacement, which, again, these are words that you're hearing is a commonality across all regions: killing of innocent people. Next, we have the Chilean coup. This resulted in 40,000 plus Chileans affected. The US role in overthrowing Salvador Allende and supporting Pinochet's, please forgive me if I mispronounce the names, but in supporting Pinochet's regime under Kissinger led to thousands of deaths and widespread human rights abuses. And this is something that he is most notable for, is going in and intentionally trying to destabilize and cause chaos in a region. He is a narcissist that triangulates the world and causes chaos, murder, and bloodbaths wherever he goes. The Argentinian Dirty War. That's the name of it. Over 300,000 Argentinians were affected. And who do you think was responsible for those 300,000 plus people being affected? Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger supported for Argentina's military junta and contributed to a campaign of terror, torture, and murder against civilians. Again, intentionally destabilizing a region so that the West reigned supreme. Now we're going to move to Africa, which he caused lots and lots of damage to. Over 1 million deaths across Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, East Timor, and Indonesia. Henry Kissinger is responsible for, and I'm getting so worked up because Kissinger's policies in Africa and Southeast Asia often supported oppressive regimes and accelerated conflicts, resulting in mass civilian casualties and suffering. Next, we have the Western Sahara conflict, where over 200,000 Western Saharans were affected. Henry Kissinger's geopolitical strategies in the region again contributed to ongoing conflict and instability. And lastly, not lastly, because this list keeps going on, but next we have the Iraq War. Over 1 million Iraqi people affected. Now, even though the major US invasion of Iraq occurred after Kissinger's tenure, it's his geopolitical strategies and the precedent that influenced US foreign policy decisions and later led to the Iraq War and its massive destructive civilian death toll. So just based on an estimation of these short numbers, and this is a short list, but this goes on, Henry Kissinger has the blood of at least 3 million people on his hands. 3 million plus, and that number isn't counting. Kissinger's tenure was marked by a disregard for civilian casualties and human suffering in pursuit of his geopolitical objectives, which were basically imperialist colonialist objectives and resulted in devastating impacts on millions of BIPOC people around the world. And Henry Kissinger can burn in hell.